The Gamers, Kyla's Rescue, written and narrated by C. Taylor, edited to meet YouTube guidelines. To purchase the unedited book, please click the link in the description. Chapter 10. Sky had changed back into her clothes, then busied herself reorganizing the shelves, checked Kyla's scan, and measured the remaining Millitreks to make sure her calculations were correct. Soon the door to the medical suite whooshed open. He was there again. "Ready?" he asked before glancing at her. He stopped, seemed to pale as he watched her. "You look nice." She looked down at herself. She wasn't wearing anything special. "Thank you," was all she could think to say to the compliment, even though she didn't understand why she received it. From Jareth's perspective, Jareth was still reeling from their moment in front of the shelves. He had just tried to distract her from her observation of how young the extraction team sounded. He'd flashed his killer smile, the one that usually got him anything he wanted, but just seemed to make her mad, which still confused him. Again, she didn't play by the same rules. Then, he had thought to tease her about her medical gown. He had remembered being excited for her to wake up. All girls, as attractive as her, would either feign anger or come on to him, and he was interested to see which she would do. She did neither, didn't even seem to notice, then quickly distracted him by not reacting the way he would have thought to anything else. Her answer when he questioned why she didn't ask again was nothing he would have ever expected. Then it happened. Her eyes dilated. He had thought he had seen it a few times earlier, saw confusion shadow her face, and thought he was wrong. But that close, there was no doubt. The urge it ignited in him was stronger than anything he'd ever felt. His body moved before he realized it. Then she moved toward him. Blood pounded in his ears, then rushed lower. She jerked away, the next moment crashing into the shelves, then right into him. Next thing he knew, she was starting to show signs of a panic attack. He started to realize this might be the first time she'd ever felt attraction to anyone, and it was causing her incredible distress. She looked at him when he tried to calm her, then suddenly she quieted and calmed. Next thing he knew, she was fine, calmer than he had ever seen her. He had no idea what actually happened in her head in that few minutes, but he had a feeling it was something very significant. He hoped it wasn't what he feared. With her condition, he hoped she hadn't just imprinted on him like a baby tuga. He was in no way capable of handling something like that, not without it ending in complete disaster. His track record with women would prove extremely problematic. He'd seen women fight over him, get insanely jealous of other women when with him. His longest relationship lasted maybe 2 weeks, but that one was a long distance situation. He only partnered with experienced women, was more of the one and done variety. He was still figuring Sky out, but felt confident any kind of attraction between them needed to be completely ignored. They both needed a distraction. One idea came to mind, but he needed Cade's approval, which he had just been granted. He was appreciating Sky's focus on the mission more and more. At such a critical time, it was something they both needed. He was all set, he had a plan, and it was going to work. Then he opened the door and saw her in an all black outfit that outlined every inch and curve of her body. His fingers twitched at the memory of seeing her bare. He had told himself at the time it was all clinical, but the memory didn't seem to recognize the difference. Blood roared in his ears again. Parts of his body started to stand at attention that really needed to stand down. He mumbled something, but couldn't hear the words coming out of his mouth over the pounding in his ears and hoped it was coherent. She looked at herself, then said thank you, confused. Did she not know she was gorgeous? We need to ignore any attraction, he repeated to himself over and over until the pounding stopped. Then she started to walk toward him, and it started again. He repeated the chant in his mind as he turned away from her to go through the door. From Sky's perspective, Sky noticed Jareth was quiet as they walked. He used a key to access a secure floor in the lift, and they ascended several stories, then down a long hall. Since it was a restricted area, Sky had never seen this part of the warship. Eventually, they came to a large window used to observe a massive room, almost as big as the loading dock. Rows and rows of men were all performing the same movements, following the instructor's orders. Sky recognized the form and moves of the Darman defense. She stepped closer to the window and watched the men practice the long disused form, its movement simple but powerful. So there are young soldiers on board, the old guard sharing their skills and knowledge. It's beautiful, she whispered in awe at what she was seeing. She felt him move closer to her, enjoying that she didn't feel the urge to pull away. How were they recruited? She asked, not understanding how they came to be trained on a clearly illegal rogue warship. The games, he answered simply. Realization hit, then excitement and relief so strong her legs nearly buckled. Her eyes shot to Jareth. It worked? She asked, needing confirmation to believe what she was seeing. He nodded. He understood her question. It was real. She had always heard of the word joy, but until that moment never knew how it felt. She turned back to the window, raised both hands and pressed them against the glass, rested her head against the cool, smooth surface, and watched. Relief, hope, all the words that fascinated her, but until this moment she had never known how they would feel. How are they here? How is this happening? Cade found one of the markers in the game a few years ago, then another. He went to one of the coordinates and found others. Once he realized what it was and what it meant, he brought as many as would come here and started their training. He scrubbed every code to find out who set up the markers and found Kyla. They'd been working together for a while and he set up the rescue the moment she asked for help. We're all hoping it wasn't too late. Sky closed her eyes and sent another silent plea for that very thing. This wasn't just a desperate plan they had thought of alone in her Newling locker anymore. It had worked, was working, and it needed Kyla to finish it. Oh, thank the powers, she breathed, tears stinging her eyes, emotions making her voice shake. Thank the powers, not thank the potentate? Jareth asked gently beside her. Yes, and since you seem to understand what we're doing, you must know why. I do, but I would love to hear how you know. My understanding is that information to Suenia is strictly controlled, he calmly requested beside her. That's complicated, she breathed as she pushed back from the window. Where could she even begin? Something strange took her hand. She looked down at it and saw Jareth's hand holding hers. She was at first confused that it calmed her. Then she looked up at Jareth, confused as to why he did it. Cade wants to meet you, talk with you, he told her quietly. Sky nodded, looking back out the viewing window at the young soldiers as Jareth moved away. They made their way to the bridge. Only General Arbin was there when they arrived, and he sealed the room once they entered. A large screen at the front of the room filled with the view of a man whose image alone was intimidating as hell. His eyes turned to hers and locked instantly. Full healing and treatment report for Kyla, he ordered. Sky jumped slightly at his directness. She felt Jareth's hand tighten on hers that same moment, grounding and calming her. Her vitals are currently strong, she stated, knowing that's what he needed to know up front before she went over the entire event. I knew before I got to her she'd been given several very strong and dangerous medications. I administered a dose of Albedron and Militrax to neutralize any remaining medications in her system and start healing the damage I knew had already been done before I sealed the transport container. After we were safely cruising, I started a Militrax drip and ran the first scan. The damage wasn't as extreme or extensive as I feared. I reviewed her record and found she'd been given a catastrophic dose of several medications by the Baron's men prior to my retrieval. It was clear they intended she not survive the trip. I gave her another dose of Albedron and prayed. Her liver was enlarged and inflamed from the medication she'd been given. Her lungs had started filling with fluid. Her nervous system was compromised. The Albedron stopped any additional damage, but I wasn't sure if it had been administered in time. After that, I increased the Militrax drip, and since her lungs have drained completely, respiration remains strong, liver size has reduced, and function continues to improve, I can't determine the impact to her nervous system until she wakes. Her brain scans seem a little concerning to me, but full disclosure, I lack a certain amount of practical application in the healing arts. She saw Kate's lips stiffen. She hoped this would never come up, but this man had taken incredibly dangerous risks to save Kyla. He needed to know a second opinion might be in everyone's best interest. Sheriff, can you confirm Sky's assessment? I reviewed the initial scans and records. I concur with her findings, except for the brain scans. What is your concern with them? According to my research, it should show more activity. Sheriff interjected. In her current state, her body is focused on healing and repair. The activity level shows it's doing exactly what it should be. Once her body is sufficiently healed, her thought process will activate and will show more activity. Oh, that's good to know, Sky admitted. Then the brain scans are matching with what's happening with the other issues. Kate's eyes leveled at Sky again. Miss Sky, exactly how much training have you received as a healer? She took a deep breath. Her hope this moment would never happen shattered. I completed all training, credentials, and certificates to a master healer level the day I left Swenia. There, that didn't sound so bad. Kate's head nodded, and he turned back to Jareth. Jareth, what is your assessment of her skill level? Overall, I'd have to agree with that skill level. She has a clear understanding of the proper use of medications, is correctly reading diagnostic results, knows how to properly use all the healing equipment. Her knowledge is sound, other than her admission to lacking practical experience and her interpretation of the brain scan results. I haven't noticed anything lacking in her abilities. To be quite honest, I've worked with senior healers that didn't possess her skill. Cade turned to his screen and started tapping. Miss Sky, when did you start your healer studies? Well, this was awkward. That morning. Cade looked irritated. What morning, Miss Sky? Please just call me Sky. I started studying the healing arts the same day Kyla and I left Swenia. The room quieted. General Arvin stared at her. She glanced out of the corner eye and saw Jareth also staring. Even Kate stopped tapping the screen and looked up. I read a lot. Could you elaborate, Sky? Kate asked after turning away from his screen to focus on her. His massive arms folded across each other as he lowered them against the desk and leaned in. Sky recounted the 2 days she didn't know where Kyla was and why that worried her. She went over her training conflict and how Kyla had contacted her during her simulation, how she had to quit her training to check the access logs to Kyla's locker, and her final decision to accept healing service since Kyla had told her she was being medicated. She explained how she found Kyla's medical records first thing the next morning and had to wait to access them until that evening. The time in between, she studied to Master Healer level. She explained that she had to break into the record to access the information, and her voice shook as she explained what she found, listed the medication she'd been given, and felt a tremor in Jareth's hand as she recounted the list. Did the record show where she was held? Kate asked. Yes, it was one of the abandoned buildings in Origin City. Kate nodded and started tapping the screen again. Building number? 78, 35th floor was set up as a tester station simulator medical room from hell, she admitted, goosebumps rising on her skin at the memory. Sky saw the muscles in Kate's arms start to flex. I found the footage. It will take me some time to break the encryption. I can access it, Sky stated. Again, everyone in the room looked at her. Sky felt her face turn red. I mean, I'll need my tablet, but it still should take less time than trying to break Sweeney encryption. I'll get it, Jareth offered, turned his back to her, and started moving toward the door. You don't know where it is, Sky warned. She moved it the moment Jareth had left. Jareth stopped, shoulders slumped, head dropped. Without turning around or looking at her, he reached his hand back for her to take. She felt ridiculously happy to hold it again. Kate called. What did you do with Kyla's medical records? Sky thought a moment. It's with the tablet. Get that also. They both nodded and went to retrieve the requested items. From Jareth's perspective, what the hell was wrong with him? All he had to do was ignore their attraction and keep his distance. Why was he constantly trying to hold her hand? Then she told Cade they needed her tablet, and he thought he could finally get some distance, just a little break from the hard pull toward her. But of course, she would have changed where she concealed the valuable items. He would have done the same thing. Why was he always underestimating her? Fully resigned, he had reached back for her and was mad at himself for how excited he felt when her fingers closed around his hand. He was starting to understand her distress. He'd felt attraction before, but nothing compared to what he felt for this fascinating woman. It was overwhelming and couldn't come at a worse time. Their mission had just acquired one of its most valuable assets and brought with her another nearly equally valuable one. Things were finally coming together, but they all needed to stay focused. There was a lot riding on this. He watched as she retrieved the tablets from her bag, concealing the bag back into the spot, and turned to him. She held the tablets with both arms tight to her chest, no hand reaching for his this time. He followed her closely, irritated that he wouldn't be holding her hand on the way back. He watched her. He liked how much calmer she was when he held her hand. He could see her tremble slightly from anxiety, and his hands twitched to reach for her. She didn't seem to notice, just kept holding the tablets, both arms tight in front of her, like armor. From Sky's perspective, he had seemed reluctant when he offered his hand as they left the bridge. She let herself be selfish for the walk back to the medical suite, but the tablets gave her a reason not to hold it on their way back. She didn't like it much, but he deserved the space he seemed to want. Once they returned to the bridge, Sky gave the code for Kate to send the security access request for the footage to her tablet. How exactly will you access the footage? Kate asked in a tone that gave Sky chills. She thought a moment before answering. Kyla trusted them to rescue her, and Kate had recognized the call for help both she and Kyla had created in the games. I'm not going to. Inspector Hoffendor is going to, she informed as she started tapping her tablet. Please explain, was Kate's next order. Inspector Hoffendor is a top-level patrol agent sent to Sweeney about 5 years ago. He has a pretty bad reputation. Nobody likes working with him, but his rank prevents anyone from doing anything about it. He usually prefers solo patrols, and no one misses him if he doesn't show up for group activities with the other Special Security Services officers. She kept the information vague, adding enough detail without giving away too much. And how do you know this inspector so well? Kate's words were especially cold. Sky looked up at him. He looked pissed. Did he think they were sleeping with the inspector? Oh boy, did Sky mess up again. Because Kyla and I made him up, she quickly explained. We built his profile, then she generated an algorithm that had him clocking in, checking out speeders, and assigned to solo patrols that he would complete. If we needed to access an area or building, we made sure he was assigned to that patrol. She admitted to herself Kate had intimidated her into giving more information than she wanted, but he seemed to relax after she explained. I assume you used some kind of filter to create the facial recognition and eye scan, he acknowledged. Yes, we used my face, but with enough filters that it was uniquely his. Kate nodded. She looked back at her screen and continued to tap, pulled up the correct filter program Kyla had written, and prepared for the facial scan. She noticed Cade move, lean back in his chair, the first time she'd ever seen him in any form of relaxed posture. How did you and Kyla find out? The question was vague, but Sky still understood. She just wished she didn't have to admit the answer. Find out what the potentate was doing? Cade nodded. I struggled with training from the beginning. I started being assigned to special projects. It was explained that I would help with activities to be used off planet since my intelligence would be a better fit for off planet use than other students that found training easy. We were told we would be asked hypothetical questions. If this scenario existed, what could be done? I was so desperate for approval that I made a horrible mistake. Kyla and I were friends by then. I would visit her in her locker. The building where she lived were for newlings only, many of which would listen to news feeds from their home planets, even though it was illegal. That's when I realized one of my ideas was used to hurt a lot of people. She felt her eyes sting again, but she pushed through the rest of the information. The worst part, no one seemed to care. It was a quick news flash followed by hours-long information pieces about that year's game, the lottery rules that allowed the winner to live on Sweeney, the new game for the following year's release. Everyone was so focused on the game, no one paid attention to the rest. We recognized what he was doing, using the games to increase his own popularity and hide his crimes. We had to do something. We didn't know if it would help, but we had to try. Sky thought back to the young soldiers training and felt her mouth smile. You have no idea how much it means to see it worked. Cade's eyes softened slightly. Yeah, I think I do, he stated, his tone softer than she'd ever heard it. She felt the hand at her back, the hand that never hurt and made her feel calm. She wiped her eyes to clear her vision so she could see the screen. The authorization image appeared. Sky felt blood drain from her head. Oh no. she whispered. Cade leaned forward. What is it? I can't access this. It requires potentate level clearance. Only he or one of his aides can authorize this. If I even try, an alert will go straight to them and we will be instantly hunted. Everyone stilled. Sky's brain freaked out. This is bad. This is so bad, she said over and over. Whatever they forced Kyla to do was for the benefit of the potentate and one of his special projects. How much misery had they just forced her to create? Sky felt sick. Her stomach lurched and she ran for the trash incinerator. Her body convulsed, wasting all the food she'd just eaten, and she cursed. Her body shook. She collapsed to the floor once her stomach stopped lurching, pulled into a ball by the closest wall, and hugged her knees. Not again, please, not again, she whispered. She felt Jareth's hands on his knees. It calmed her, but she didn't deserve it. She should have found Kyla sooner, should have gotten her out, should have never let this happen in the first place. This was all her fault. She heard Kate's voice. Jareth, take her back to the medical suite. There's nothing more we can do now. Sky's head shot up. Cade, we need Kyla. How soon until we get to Niobe? I need more Militrex. I have her on a minimal drip now, which is slowing her healing. General Arbin stepped forward. We received word. The consortium is sending aid. We can't risk it. They're lying. I guarantee there will be another attack before they arrive. They'll use it as an excuse to cancel the aid and will cite safety concerns. The general nodded his agreement. We know, but we can't risk the additional patrols that would be ordered to try and prove their compliance with Niobe's request. There's blind spots. We can use the gaps in their patrol protocols. Move the warship behind the nearest moon. Then use Jareth's speeder, which has full diplomatic authority. Her eyes were moving as she spoke, the plan coming together at the same time she was saying it. She felt Jareth flinch, then leaned into her. You knew about that? She just nodded, didn't want to give either of her usual answers everyone thought were so amusing. Kate turned. General Arbin, will that work? The general's eyes narrowed as he watched Sky. How do you know there are gaps? Because we made them. We made sure there were gaps and blind spots in patrol protocols to get to most places in the known universes. It was the first time she had ever seen the general fully smile.